The sun bled orange across the wasteland highway when Finn Carver heard the sound that would end his quiet life. A metallic scraping, faint as breath, coming from the cargo hold he thought was empty. He had driven 300 miles without stopping, hauling scrap metal across territories where questions got you killed. But when he opened those rusted doors at the edge of nowhere, two figures stumbled into the dying light, their skin shimmering in colors that had no name in any human language. And in that moment, before the Empire's warships tore the sky apart, before his face became the most wanted in 9 systems, Finn Carver made a choice that would ignite a war across the stars. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if tales of ordinary people caught in extraordinary moments move you, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode will take you even deeper into the heart of this galactic storm. The highway stretched like a scar across dead earth, cracked asphalt shimmering under a sun that had forgotten mercy. Finn Carver's truck groaned with every mile, its engine coughing black smoke into air already thick with dust. The radio had died 2 hours back, leaving only the wind's whistle and the steady thrum of worn pistons. He drove with one hand loose on the wheel, the other holding a thermos of coffee gone cold. This was his 5th run this month, hauling scrap from the mining colonies to the salvage yards near the northern border. The pay was thin, but it kept him moving, kept him from thinking too much about the life he'd left behind. The sun hung low now, painting the wasteland in shades of rust and amber. Finn squinted against the glare, his eyes tracking the empty road ahead. No other vehicles, no settlements, just endless nothing, the way he preferred it. He reached for the thermos, shook it, found it empty. He'd need to stop soon, refill at one of the automated stations if any still worked out here. The Empire's patrols had been heavier lately, their ships cutting contrails across the sky like warnings. Something was stirring in the outer systems, rumors of unrest, of voices raised against the throne. Finn didn't concern himself with politics. He fixed engines, hauled cargo, survived. Then he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Metallic scraping, rhythmic, deliberate. Coming from behind him, from the cargo hold. Finn's foot eased off the accelerator. The truck slowed, its ancient brakes squealing. He listened, head tilted, pulse suddenly loud in his ears. There it was again. Scraping. Then, something else. Fainter. A voice, maybe, or the wind playing tricks. He'd sealed that cargo hold himself 3 days ago, loaded it with engine parts and sheet metal. Nothing living. Nothing that could make sound. The highway stretched empty in both directions, no witnesses, no help if he needed it. Finn pulled the truck onto the shoulder, gravel crunching under the tires. He killed the engine. Silence rushed in, vast and complete. He sat there for a moment, hands still on the wheel, weighing options. Drive on, ignore it, deliver the cargo, and collect his pay. But the sound came again, louder now, insistent. Someone was in there. Someone or something. Finn grabbed the tire iron from beneath his seat and stepped out into the cooling desert air. The cargo hold's lock had been forced from the inside, metal bent outward like petals. Finn's grip tightened on the tire iron as he approached, boots crunching on gravel. The sun sat heavy on the horizon, casting his shadow long and thin across the truck's rusted panels. He'd hauled cargo for 7 years across every backwater route the Empire ignored, and he'd learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts screamed at him to get back in the cab and drive until the tank ran dry. But he didn't. He never did. Finn pulled the door open. It swung wide with a shriek of protest, and 2 figures tumbled forward, into the light. Women. Or something close enough to women that his mind struggled to categorize the difference. They collapsed onto the gravel, gasping, their bodies trembling from cold or fear or something else entirely. One had skin the color of deep violet twilight, darker where shadows pooled along her collarbone. The other shimmered pale blue, like ice-catching moonlight. Both wore torn clothing that might have once been elegant, fabric that moved like liquid even in stillness. Finn stepped back, tire iron raised. Neither woman attacked. The violet one pushed herself up on shaking arms, her hair falling in dark waves across her face. When she looked at him, her eyes were gold, pupils vertical like a cat's. The blue one remained on the ground, breathing hard, one hand pressed to her ribs. "Please," the violet one said, her voice hoarse but clear. Human words, human accent. "Please, we mean no harm." Finn didn't lower the iron. "Who are you? How'd you get in my truck?" The violet one glanced at her companion, some silent communication passing between them. When she looked back at Finn, something in her expression had shifted. Resignation, maybe, or the weight of a truth too heavy to carry alone. "My name is Seralith," she said. "This is my sister, Nyxara. We are daughters of Emperor Valen Corvex, sovereign of the Threxian Dominion." She paused, watching his face for recognition. "And 3 days ago, our father ordered us locked in a transport bound for the execution yards on Callis Prime." Finn stared. The Empire. The Emperor. Words that belonged to news broadcasts and propaganda streams, not to a dusty highway in the middle of nowhere. He looked at the blue one, Nyxara, who had finally lifted her head. Blood stained her sleeve, dark against pale skin. "You're lying," Finn said, but his voice lacked conviction. Seralith slowly reached for her collar, pulled the torn fabric aside. Beneath it, etched into her skin like a brand, was a symbol Finn recognized even from this distance. The Imperial crest. 3 stars circling a crown. He'd seen it on every checkpoint, every patrol ship, every propaganda poster plastered across colony walls. "We escaped during a supply stop," Seralith continued. "Your truck was the only one unlocked. We didn't know where it would take us. We just knew we had to run." The wasteland, swallowed sound. Finn stood there, tire iron hanging loose in his grip, staring at 2 alien princesses bleeding on the gravel beside his truck. The sun had nearly disappeared now, leaving only a crimson slash across the horizon. In the growing darkness, their skin seemed to glow faintly, bioluminescent patterns tracing lines along their arms like living tattoos. "You need to leave," Finn said finally. "Get out. Walk that direction." He pointed east, toward nothing. "I never saw you." Seralith didn't move. "If you abandon us here, we'll die before morning. The temperature drops to freezing after dark. We have no supplies, no shelter." Her golden eyes held his. "And when the patrols find our bodies, they'll trace our path. They'll find you anyway." Finn's jaw tightened. He looked at Nyxara, who still clutched her ribs, her breath coming in short gasps. The blood on her sleeve had spread. "How bad is she hurt?" "Broken ribs, maybe internal bleeding. She needs medical attention." Seralith's voice remained steady, but something underneath it trembled. Fear, carefully controlled. "Please, I'm not asking you to fight an empire. Just give us 1 night, 1 meal, then we'll disappear, and you can forget you ever saw us." As if summoning judgment from the sky itself, lights appeared on the northern horizon, small at first, like distant stars, then growing brighter. Ship lights, moving fast. Finn's stomach dropped. He'd seen enough Imperial patrols to recognize their formation. 3 vessels in a hunting triangle, sweeping the terrain with searchlights that could spot a heat signature from 10 miles out. "They're scanning for us," Seralith whispered. She grabbed Nyxara's arm, tried to pull her sister upright. "We have to hide." Finn's mind raced through options, each one worse than the last. Let them run and watch them get caught within minutes. Help them hide and become an accomplice to whatever crime the Empire claimed they'd committed. Drive away and spend the rest of his life wondering if he'd left 2 women to die in the desert. The ships drew closer, their lights sweeping across the wasteland like hungry eyes. "Get in the cab," Finn said suddenly. "Under the tarp behind the seats. Don't make a sound." Seralith's eyes widened. "You're helping us?" "I'm keeping you quiet so they don't search my truck. There's a difference." He grabbed Nyxara's other arm, helped Seralith lift her. The princess weighed almost nothing, her body cold as winter metal. They stumbled toward the cab, Nyxara biting back sounds of pain. Finn practically shoved them inside, threw the tarp over their huddled forms, then slammed the door. He turned to face the approaching lights, tire iron still in his hand, and waited for the Empire to arrive. The crossroads had chosen him. Now he had to live with which direction his soul was facing. The patrol ships descended like mechanical vultures, engines screaming as they settled onto the highway 30 yards ahead. Dust billowed outward in choking waves, and Finn raised one arm to shield his eyes. 3 vessels, sleek and angular, their hulls painted in the Empire's colors. Deep crimson, chased with gold. Searchlights swiveled, locked onto him, turned him into a silhouette against his own truck. A hatch opened. Soldiers emerged, 6 of them, armor-plated, and faces hidden behind visors that reflected nothing but cold assessment. They moved with practiced precision, weapons raised but not aimed. Not yet. The leader stepped forward, taller than the others, his armor marked with rank insignia that meant officer, which meant authority, which meant danger, identification. The officer said. His voice came through a speaker, distorted and flat. Finn reached slowly into his jacket, pulled out his transit card, held it up. The officer scanned it with a device on his wrist. Seconds stretched. Behind Finn, the truck sat silent. He prayed neither princess would move, would breathe too loud, would do anything to draw attention. Finn Carver, licensed hauler, route authorization current. The officer lowered his scanner. You're a long way from the main roads. Shortcut, Finn said. Saves fuel. Have you seen anyone on this highway? Any vehicles? Any movement? Nothing. Just dust and empty. The officer studied him. Even through the visor, Finn felt the weight of suspicion. We're tracking 2 fugitives. High priority. Extremely dangerous. He pulled up a holographic display from his wrist device. 2 faces materialized in the air between them, rotating slowly. Serelith and Nixara, their features rendered in cold blue light. Imperial property. If you've encountered them, harboring them carries a death sentence. Finn kept his expression flat. Haven't seen them. Open your cargo hold. Finn's pulse hammered, but he moved with deliberate calm. He walked to the back of the truck, unlocked the cargo doors, swung them wide. Metal scraps glinted in the searchlights. Engine parts, sheet metal, coils of wire, nothing alive. The soldiers swept their lights across the cargo, scanning for heat, for movement. One climbed inside, kicked at the debris, checked the corners. Clear, the soldier called. The officer turned his attention back to Finn. Where are you headed? Salvage yards, north border. You'll take the main highway. No more shortcuts. We're locking down this sector. The officer gestured to his soldiers, and they began retreating to their ships. If you see anything, report it immediately. Cooperation is rewarded. Silence is treason. Finn nodded. The ships lifted off, engines roaring, and disappeared into the darkening sky. He stood there until their lights became stars again, until the desert returned to its vast quiet. Then he walked back to the cab and opened the door. 2 pairs of eyes stared at him from beneath the tarp. They're hunting you hard, Finn said quietly. Why? Serelith emerged slowly. Because we know what our father really is. Finn drove through the night with the headlights off, navigating by starlight and instinct. The main highway glowed in the distance, a ribbon of light where Imperial convoys moved in endless procession. He kept to the old mining roads, routes that hadn't seen traffic in years, where the asphalt had crumbled back into the desert it came from. In the cab behind him, Serelith tended to her sister, tearing strips from her already ruined dress to bind Nixara's ribs. Tell me, Finn said, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. What did you learn that was worth killing you for? Serelith's hands paused in their work. The colonies, the outer settlements. My father tells the Empire they're prosperous, protected, thriving under his rule. Her voice carried the weight of something broken. We went there, Nixara and I. Against his orders, we saw the truth. Nixara spoke for the first time, her voice thin with pain. Mass graves, entire populations worked to death in the mines, children with radiation sickness because safety protocols cost too much profit. She coughed, winced. We documented everything, planned to bring it before the Council of Systems. He found out before we could transmit the evidence, Seralith continued. Had us arrested in the night, called us traitors, said we'd been corrupted by rebellion propaganda. The execution was meant to look like justice. Finn's grip tightened on the wheel. He'd heard rumors, of course. Everyone had. But rumors were easy to dismiss when your survival depended on not asking questions. Where's the evidence now? Encrypted in neural storage. Seralith tapped her temple. Organic memory implants. They can't extract it without killing us, and they can't kill us without making us martyrs. So they planned a quiet execution on a prison planet where no one would ask questions. A sound cut through the night, high and wailing. Sirens. Finn glanced at the rearview mirror and saw lights blooming on the horizon behind them. Not ships this time. Ground vehicles. Fast ones. They found the patrol's report, Seralith said, reading his expression. Or someone noticed your route deviation. Finn pushed the accelerator down. The truck groaned, protesting, but obeyed. 60 miles per hour. 70. The old engine screamed. Behind them, the lights grew closer, multiplying. A dozen vehicles now. 20. The entire sector must have mobilized. Then the radio crackled to life, dead for hours but suddenly broadcasting on every frequency at once. A voice filled the cab, amplified and cold with authority. Finn Carver, this is Commander Draxis of the Imperial Security Force. You are harboring fugitives of the throne. Surrender them immediately, and you will be shown mercy. Refuse, and you will be declared enemy of the Empire. Your face will be broadcast across 9 systems. Your name will become synonymous with treason. You have 60 seconds to comply. Finn looked at the mirror, at the lights behind him, at the 2 princesses in his cab. Then he turned off the main road entirely and drove into the deepest dark. Emperor Valen Corvex stood before the observation sphere, watching 9 systems rotate in holographic splendor. Each world a jewel in his crown. Each moon a tribute to his dominion. Behind him, the throne room stretched vast and empty, its walls carved from asteroid core, its floor polished until it reflected infinity. He had built this empire from blood and calculation, united warring species under one banner, one law, one throne. And now, a human mechanic threatened to unravel everything. "Show me," Corvex said. Commander Draxis stepped forward, activating his wrist display. Finn Carver's face materialized in the air, rotating slowly. A weathered face, unremarkable, the kind that disappeared in crowds. Work lines around the eyes, gray threading through dark hair. Nothing about him suggested rebellion or heroism, just another laborer grinding through another day. He refused the ultimatum, Draxis reported. Drove into the Red Barrens. We've deployed tracker drones and sealed all exit routes. And my daughters, still with him. Heat signatures confirmed 2 Threxian life forms in the vehicle. Corvex's hand curled into a fist. His daughters, Seralith, with her mother's conscience, always questioning, always doubting. Nixara, with her father's fire, turned against him. He had given them everything, palaces, education, positions of honor, and they had repaid him with betrayal. Sneaking into the colonies, gathering evidence meant to destroy him before the Council of Systems. He could not allow their testimony to surface. The Empire's foundation rested on a carefully constructed lie, that his rule brought prosperity, that expansion meant protection, that the colonies thrived under imperial care. The truth, those mass graves and poisoned children, would ignite rebellions across every system. His reign would crumble. Chaos would return. Everything he had sacrificed to build would turn to ash. "Issue a galaxy-wide broadcast," Corvex said quietly. "I want Finn Carver's face on every screen, every display, every public square. Declare him an enemy of the throne, kidnapper, terrorist. Offer a reward, 1 million Imperial credits for his capture, dead or alive." Draxis hesitated. "My lord, if we paint him as a villain, some may see him as a martyr. The outer colonies have been restless. They might let them see what happens to those who defy me. Corvex turned from the hologram, his robes sweeping across the polished floor. Mobilize the Third Fleet. Burn the Red Barons if you must. Level every settlement within 100 miles of his last known position. I want them found within 3 days. And when we find them, Corvex's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than shouting. Kill the human. Make it public. Make it slow. As for my daughters... He paused, something flickering across his face that might have been grief in a lesser man. They made their choice when they chose betrayal over blood. Treat them as you would any traitor. The Emperor returned to watching his empire rotate, beautiful and fragile as glass. The Red Barons earned their name from the iron oxide that stained everything the color of dried blood. Finn's truck crawled narrow canyons where stone walls rose like cathedral pillars, blocking satellite surveillance but also blocking escape routes. The engine coughed, overheated, dying by degrees. Behind them, the sound of pursuit had faded, but Finn knew it was temporary. The Empire didn't give up. It just regrouped. Nixara had stopped speaking an hour ago, her breathing shallow and ragged. Seralith held her sister's hand, whispering words in a language Finn didn't recognize. Prayers, maybe. Or apologies. The cab smelled of blood and sweat and fear. There, Seralith said, suddenly pointing ahead. Finn saw it. A structure built into the canyon wall, camouflaged so well it looked like natural rock formation, but the angles were too precise, the shadows too deliberate. Someone had built this to hide. He slowed the truck, every instinct screaming trap. But they had nowhere else to go. Figures emerged from the structure, a dozen of them, armed but not firing. They wore mismatched armor, scavenged gear, the uniform of people who fought without Empire backing. Their leader stepped forward, a woman with short, dark hair and a scar that ran from temple to jaw. She raised one hand, signaling halt. Finn stopped, reached for the tire iron. The woman approached the driver's window, her weapon lowered but ready. She looked past Finn into the cab, and her expression changed. Shock, then something that looked almost like reverence. Seralith, the woman breathed. By through the old stars. The broadcasts said you were kidnapped. Kayla Voss, Seralith said, recognition clear in her voice. You're still alive. Barely. Kayla's eyes swept to Nixara, registered the blood, the pale trembling. Get them inside, quickly. Finn didn't move. Who are you people? Resistance. Free Colonies Network. Choose whatever name you like. Kayla met his gaze. We're the people who've been waiting for proof of what the Empire really is. And you just delivered it to us. Seralith pushed the door open. We need medical supplies. My sister is... We have a medic. Basic equipment. It'll have to be enough. Kayla gestured, and her people moved forward to help carry Nixara. Finn finally stepped out of the truck, legs stiff from hours of driving. Around him, the resistance fighters worked with practiced efficiency, already covering the vehicle with camouflage netting, erasing tire tracks. Kayla turned to Finn. You know your face is on every screen in 9 systems now. 1 million credits for your head. The Emperor's calling you a terrorist, a kidnapper, a threat to galactic peace. Finn looked at his truck, at the princesses being carried into the hidden base, at the life he'd known vanishing like water in desert sand. I just gave them a ride. Sometimes that's enough, Kayla said. Sometimes, one small act of mercy starts a war. The resistance base carved deeper into the canyon than Finn expected. Chambers connected by tunnels that had once been mining shafts. Emergency lights cast everything in amber shadow. Fighters moved through the corridors with quiet purpose, checking weapons, monitoring screens that showed Imperial patrol patterns. This wasn't a temporary hideout. This was infrastructure, organization, a rebellion that had been waiting for its moment. In the medical bay, such as it was, Nixara lay on a cot while a medic worked on her ribs. She'd regained some color, the blue of her skin brightening from corpse pale to something closer to living twilight. Seralith stood beside her sister, one hand gripping Nixara's, the other resting on a data pad. that Kayla had provided. "We can broadcast from here," Kayla explained, gesturing to the equipment lining one wall. "Pirate frequencies. We can't reach the core systems directly, but the outer colonies will hear. That's 50 billion people, maybe more." Seralith looked at the camera, at the recording equipment, at the chance she'd risked everything to create. "Once we do this, there's no going back. My father will burn entire worlds to silence us." "He's already burning them," Kayla said quietly. "Just slowly, quietly, in ways the Council of Systems doesn't see." She pulled up a hologram showing a mining colony on Verlix 4. Empty streets, abandoned buildings, mass graves marked with numbers instead of names. "This was last month. Official report says industrial accident. We know better." Nixara pushed herself upright, wincing. "Then we speak. Now." Finn watched from the doorway as they prepared. He'd become an afterthought in his own story. The mechanic who'd delivered the spark, but had no role in the fire that followed. Part of him wanted to slip away, find another truck, disappear into the vast anonymity of the outer territories. But he stayed. Bearing witness felt like the least he could do. The camera activated, red light glowing like a small, angry eye. Seralith stood before it, Nixara beside her, both princesses bloodied but unbowed. When Seralith spoke, her voice carried the weight of royalty turned against its own throne. "My name is Seralith, first daughter of Emperor Valen Corvex. This is my sister Nixara. We were sentenced to death for discovering the truth our father has hidden from you." She paused, letting that sink in. "The colonies are not prosperous. They are graveyards. The expansion is not protection. It is exploitation. We have documentation, images, testimony from survivors, everything the Empire has spent decades concealing." The broadcast began uploading, splitting across 100 pirate channels, multiplying across networks the Empire couldn't fully control. Within minutes, it would reach the outer systems. Within hours, rebellion would have a face, a voice. "Proof." Nixara leaned closer to the camera. "If you are tired of being disposable, of watching your children die for imperial profit, rise. We stand with you. No more silence, no more fear." The transmission ended. Somewhere in the throne room, Finn knew. An emperor was learning that his daughters had just declared war. The broadcast rippled outward like a stone dropped in still water, circles expanding, touching shores the Empire had long taken for granted. On Verlix 4, miners abandoned their posts and marched on the Imperial garrison. Tools turned to weapons, exhaustion turned to rage. On Kaleth Station, dockworkers sealed the hangars, trapping 3 Imperial cruisers and their entire command structure inside. On New Tarsus, colony administrators found themselves locked in their own offices, while citizens broadcast the princess's words on every public screen. The Empire responded as it always had, with overwhelming force. The Third Fleet arrived at the Red Barrens 12 hours after the broadcast, warships blotting out the stars. Commander Draxis deployed ground forces in waves, soldiers sweeping through canyons with orders to kill anything that moved. But the resistance had already evacuated, collapsed the tunnels behind them, disappeared into networks built over decades of careful preparation. Finn rode in the back of a transport with Seralith and Nixara, heading south toward another safe house, another temporary refuge. Around them, resistance fighters monitored communications, tracking the chaos spreading across 9 systems. Every hour brought new reports. Rebellions on 12 worlds. 17, 23. The numbers climbed like fever. "Your father, it is pulling ships from the border regions," Kayla said, studying tactical displays, redeploying them to suppress the uprisings. "He's leaving gaps in his defenses he hasn't had in 20 years. Seralith watched the data scroll past, her expression unreadable. He's terrified, not of losing systems, of losing legitimacy. The Empire was built on the lie that he brought order, prosperity, peace. We've shown everyone what that peace costs." On the screen, footage played from various colonies, citizens tearing down imperial monuments, burning propaganda posters, chanting the names of the 2 princesses who had given their testimony. Some of the images were triumphant. Others were brutal. The Empire didn't surrender ground gracefully. Orbital bombardments lit up several settlement zones. Reports came in of massacres of Imperial soldiers executing civilian leaders as examples. Finn looked away from the screen. How many are going to die because of this? Fewer than would have died in silence, Nyxara said quietly. She sat with her ribs bound, color returning slowly to her features. My father's empire consumes 1,000 lives a day in mines, in factories, in colonies pushed past human endurance. We've given them a chance to fight back, to die on their feet instead of their knees. Doesn't make it easier, Finn said. No, Seralith agreed, but necessary things rarely are. The transport climbed out of the canyon, emerging onto a plateau where dawn was breaking across the wasteland. The sky burned orange and gold, beautiful and violent, like the galaxy itself was catching fire. Below them, smoke rose from a dozen sites where Imperial forces clashed with hastily organized militias. War had come, sudden and total, inevitable, and somewhere in the throne room, an emperor watched his dominion fracture, one system at a time, powerless to stop what 2 daughters and 1 mechanic had set in motion. The war lasted 3 months, though its echoes would ring for generations. Emperor Valen Corvex fell not to external invasion, but to internal collapse, his own generals turning against him when they saw the evidence the princesses had revealed. Commander Draxis died in the throne room, shot by his own second-in-command, who had children on Verlix 4. The Council of Systems convened for the first time in years with actual authority, dismantling the imperial structure piece by piece, returning autonomy to colonies that had forgotten what freedom tasted like. Seralith and Nyxara became symbols, their faces painted on walls across 100 worlds. They didn't seek power. They built councils instead. Frameworks for cooperation rather than domination. Nyxara recovered slowly, her ribs healing, her voice growing stronger in chambers where laws were rewritten. Seralith traveled to the colonies, bearing witness, documenting reconstruction, ensuring the new systems didn't simply replicate the old tyranny with different names. Finn Carver disappeared from the story the way mechanics often do, essential until the engine runs smooth, then forgotten. The reward on his head was rescinded, replaced with offers of honor, of position, of recognition. He declined them all. When the fighting ended and the broadcasts moved on to other heroes, he returned to what remained of his old life. The truck had survived somehow, abandoned in the canyon but intact. Finn spent 2 weeks repairing it, replacing parts scavenged from resistant stockpiles, getting the engine running again. When it finally turned over, coughing black smoke into clean desert air, something settled in his chest that had been restless for months. He took contracts again, hauling scrap, delivering supplies to rebuilding colonies, driving the same empty highways he'd driven before 2 princesses stumbled into his cargo hold. The difference was the people he passed now. They waved sometimes, recognizing the truck if not the driver. A few left offerings at rest stops, food, water, small tokens of gratitude for the man who'd started it all. One evening, as the sun bled orange across familiar wasteland, Finn pulled over at the same spot where he'd first heard that metallic scraping. He killed the engine, stepped out, stood in the cooling air. A ship descended from the darkening sky, small and unmarked. Seralith emerged, alone, her skin shimmering violet in the fading light. "I wanted to thank you," she said, properly, without cameras or ceremonies. Finn shook his head. "I just gave you a ride. You gave us more than that. You gave us a choice when you could have chosen safety." She held out a small object, a medallion bearing the new council's seal. "This grants you citizenship in any system, free passage, protection." Finn looked at it, then gently pushed her hand back. "Keep it. I've got everything I need." Seralith smiled, understanding. She returned to her ship, lifted off, disappeared into stars that belonged to no single empire anymore. Finn climbed back into his truck and drove into the deepening night. Just another mechanic on another empty road, carrying the quiet knowledge that sometimes the smallest acts echo loudest.